Special thanks to the K Family Foundation, lead underwriters for Mosaic. Hello, my name is Barbara Kay, and on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I'd like to welcome you to our program, Mosaic. Our special guest on Mosaic today is the Harvard Law professor, lecturer, author, Alan Dershowitz. We'll be back with our guest and our program right after this brief message.
The Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County makes so much possible every day.
Connecting more than 1,600 area middle and high school students to social, educational, and volunteer programs through the Jewish Teen Initiative.
Working with area congregations to engage the community in Jewish life through the Synagogue Institute.
But we need your help. Volunteer your time. Pledge your support. Make a difference. Thank you for helping us build community together. Thank you for your generous support.
Welcome back to Mosaic. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
I look forward
Professor.
to this all the time. I really enjoy your interviews.
I think we were talking about it yesterday, I think when we had dinner, that it was about the 4th time we've been together.
Seems like many, many more.
Alan, we're going to talk about some of your remarkable books, but first I was thinking about this. I read an article. You were born in 1938.
That's right.
The world for a nice little Jewish boy growing up in 1938 was very different compared to today. Share what it was like in regard to the embracing of Jewish people at that time.
Well, funny you should ask, because I'm right now writing my autobiography. Alan Dershowitz Takes the Stand, and I'm right up to the part about growing up during the war and the post-war period. First, it was a scary time. We didn't know about the Shoah, the Holocaust, but we knew our relatives in Europe were dying. My father on the refrigerator, the Frigidaire we called it, always had a map of how close the Allied troops were to Berlin and whether our family members would be saved. We learned after the war they were not. I remember VE Day and VJ Day, Victory over Europe and Victory over Japan Day. And then, of course, there was the post-war period. It was the best of all times to grow up. We lived in an expanding economy. We could be anything. We could do anything. Jackie Robinson could play second base for the Brooklyn Dodgers. A Jewish kid could become president.
Yeah, but it was not such an opening, embracing society.
We thought it was. We thought it was. We didn't know, because I grew up in Brooklyn.
Oh,
who knew? We had vague memories, notions that you couldn't work for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, you couldn't work for the telephone company, you certainly couldn't live in Tuxedo Park, New York, you probably couldn't get into Yale College, you certainly couldn't get into a WASPy law firm. I was first in my class at Yale Law School, editor-in-chief of the Yale Law Journal. I got turned down by 32 out of 32 Wall Street firms. So there was that kind of pervasive discrimination. But, you know, frankly, we didn't care. Yeah. We had a life that we knew we were going to live, and it was going to be full, and we were going to live it to the max.
But, Alan, when Israel became a state, a sovereign country, 1948, everything changed.
Everything changed. Everything changed. I was 10 years old.
Okay.
My father would sit in front of, we had a little 10-inch black and white TV, watching Abba Eban and watching the great voices and counting the votes. We had a young boy in our neighborhood. His name was Pearlstein, I think, Moshe Pearlstein. He went off to fight in the Haganah, and one day my mother came home crying hysterically. Moshe had been killed in Kikar Etzion. And everybody knew him. He had gone to our yeshiva. It really brought the fight home. And we sang songs of the Palmach. You want to hear a great story? So Vidal Sassoon was at an event with me recently in California, and he told me that he had been in the Palmach. He had been one of the fighters for Israel. And I said, yeah, do you know the Palmach song? He said, sure. And the two of us together start singing, Rishonim Tamid Anachnu Tamid Anu Anu Ha Palmach. So we were very into the whole struggle for Israel's independence.
Yeah, but I don't think that the young people growing up today appreciate the impact and the change in their lives that came about because of the existence of the state.
And they take it for granted. You know, the Jews of the 1930s, we sometimes blame them. Why didn't they do more to prevent the Holocaust? They couldn't. They were weak. They didn't have power. Israel gave Jews a sense of real strength and accomplishment. 1948, 1967, we were so worried about there being yet another Holocaust, and Israel comes through triumphantly in 6 days. We all beat our chest in pride. For today's Jews, it's very, very different. They don't feel that kind of pride in Israel. At least many of them don't.
Yeah, this is it's a big concern, and this one of the things that we were talking about also last night was the fact that the people growing up today don't recognize that Israel is the epicenter of the Jewish world.
Because they don't see Israel as a necessary place to save them from rampant anti-Semitism. After all, one of Israel's original raison d'etres was it will be open to Jews, the way America was closed to Jews between 32 and 45, the way Canada was closed to Jews, the way the whole world was closed to Jews. Israel would be a sanctuary. American Jews today, we don't need a sanctuary. What's Israel have to do with us? Many young people think, and they don't have the sense of identification because they don't appreciate how much of their security and safety in today's life grew out of Israel's struggle for independence.
Precisely. So why did you write the case for Israel?
I wish I didn't have to write the case for Israel.
Did you ever write the case for France?
No, and I wish somebody would write it sometime with a case for Canada. I wrote it because people told me you needed to make the case on college campuses, and people didn't know how to make the case on college campuses, and people were ashamed to make the case. So I wrote it mostly for college students. Surprisingly, it became a bestseller, and it's now in 10, 15 languages around the world, and it's being used as a kind of primer for helping Jews make the case. But it's not enough. We need younger people. We need people making the case for Israel multimedia, on the internet, on Facebook, on Twitter, everywhere.
I'll tell you something. We're losing the public relations war. Israel is losing it internationally.
I don't care about internationally. You know where Israel's losing it worst? You know the worst part of it is losing it with our children. It's making our children ashamed. It's giving our children a sense of, gee, maybe Israel isn't perfect, therefore maybe we shouldn't be identified with it. Internationally, Israel can take care of itself. We can fight at the UN. Where we can't fight, where we're losing the battle, is with our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephews, kids going into college, kids in their second, third year in college. We're not winning that battle. That's more important than the international battle.
You know, it's January of 2011, and the legitimacy of the sovereign state of Israel is being questioned.
Not by anybody with any common sense.
Well,
I mean, but of course, they question. You know, it's a tactic. I went and met with Salim Fayyad in Ramallah. Had a wonderful lunch. It was terrific. We had a great time in Ramallah. It's a beautiful city. It's like downtown Jerusalem. It's clear. He essentially told me the delegitimation issue is a card the Palestinians are playing. If they can't make peace or get what they want militarily or through demography, they're going to try to use delegitimation as a kind of lawfare, a kind of warfare, but with the L instead of the W. And it's working in some quarters, not in other quarters. It's not working in the United States among serious people. The Congress we have now, the Senate we have now, very pro-Israel. They're not taking in this stuff about delegitimation, but it's working at the UN.
Yeah, there's divestment discussions on campuses across the country.
Everywhere. Everywhere they fail. Let me tell you what happened at Hampshire College. It passed at Hampshire College. So I started a campaign writing to alumni directly. If Hampshire divests from Israel, we will divest from Hampshire. My son went there. I was an alum. The president called me apologetically, reversing it, changing it. No more divestment at Hampshire. We have a promise from Harvard, never will divest. So we're winning the fights about divestment on college campuses. There was an effort to boycott Israeli academics.
Exactly.
So Steve Weinberger, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics, and I put together a little letter. We were going to get 100 signatures. We too are professors that identify with Israel. We both had honorary doctorates from Israeli universities. So if you boycott Israeli professors, you're boycotting us. We got 11,000 American academics to sign that petition. They backed out of that boycott campaign so fast because the Brits realized academics, if they boycott Israel, the end result is they will be boycotted. We have to fight back.
Well, what happens when you talk about what happens when Israeli politicians come to Israel, come to England?
We're winning that fight. Let me tell you what's happening. We fought it very, very hard. We threatened to bring lawsuits, and the British Parliament is changing the law now as the result of these pressures. I don't think Israel handled this right. And I told Tzipi Livni this. I said, Tzipi, you and I go to London together. You walk through the streets with your head held high and your arms up. You want to arrest me? Arrest me. We'll put Britain on trial. We'll put the world on trial. We'll show that Israel has the best record of human rights of any country ever faced with comparable threats. You shouldn't be hiding and running away. The Israelis should be standing firm, holding their head up. I told Tzipi Livni, I told the generals of the Israeli army, if any of you ever gets arrested, we will put together the greatest legal team ever assembled, and we will put Great Britain and all the others who accuse Israel and accuse it on a double standard on trial. You have to fight back.
Okay, you're going to do that at the United Nations?
Yes. You know, it's a terrible thing that I had to turn down the role. I was asked by Israel to be the ambassador of Israel to the United Nations, and my own feeling was it would raise problems of dual loyalty. I'm an American. Am I switching sides? It would have been the wrong thing for Israel. It would have been the wrong thing for American Jews. The only one who would have benefited would me. And I would have loved to do it, but it's not something I can do.
But
we'll fight back.
We'll fight back. We'll fight every time Israel tries to defend itself.
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened when they tried to have Durban II in Geneva. We went over. Elie Wiesel went over. I went over. Erwin Kotler went over. A bunch of other people went over. And we had our own conference. We got more attention than the UN got. And we got all the countries of Western Europe to walk out on Ahmadinejad. And they're going to bring Durban II again to the United States, Durban III now, to New York. I can't wait. We're going to be waiting with open arms. We're going to take them on their own terms, and we're going to beat them. That's the way we have to do it. We can't sit back and go, oy vey, Gewalt. We have to fight back.
Yeah, but everybody doesn't have your sense of, what's to say, confidence, your attitude in regard, we'll fight. The majority of people, Jews that living in this country, sit back and they wait for somebody like you.
Well, they shouldn't wait. Everybody has to fight back in their own way. Every time there's a libel in the newspapers, people ought to write letters to the editor. People call.
They ought to, but they don't.
Shows.
Alan.
They should. Don't blame Israel. Blame themselves. Look in the mirror. You have to fight back, and it's not the job of just a limited number of people.
Yeah, but I have to tell you something. I don't think Israel does a good public relations job for itself either.
They have a very hard job. They have a very hard. It used to be easy to defend Israel. Today it's very, very tough. It's much more complicated. They're fighting urban battles. There are civilian casualties. It's not easy to make the case for Israel today. It was much easier 30 or 40 years ago. So I don't blame Israel. I think they can do a better job.
I think so.
And I think they're trying to do a better job. I think the issue of Hasbara, which is what they call public relations, should be taken out of politics. And they should create a group outside the Prime Minister's office, outside of politics, to defend what I call the 80% case. Not every single policy of Israel, but the basic right of Israel to thrive as a Jewish secular democracy.
On that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the remainder of our program right after this brief message.
Thanks to your support, Federation maintains the fabric of the Jewish community. By enabling our community to remain vital and vibrant today and for future generations.
Mentoring more than 400 at-risk children through the Youth Futures program in Federation's partnered communities of Israel's Tzachar region.
Providing a wealth of social, welfare, spiritual and educational services available to the 110,000 members of the Jewish community in St. Petersburg, Russia.
We touch so many and do so much. Your dollars fund the work of our Federation. Thank you for your generous support.